Episode 7, The Bowl for Returning, Again. That evening, the lighthouse was quiet in a way that felt almost solemn. The white bowl sat on the shelf, holding your glittering stones, Grandpa's little note, and things that didn't ask for applause, only safekeeping. You came over slowly, looked at the bowl, and said, "I don't want this to become a rule." I nodded. "It won't. For us, it's not a must. It's just a way of returning." Grandpa sat on his step below, back straight, but without that old armor. And still, the reflex lived in him. "A ritual requires consistency," he said, almost automatically. You turned toward him, calm, not flaring up. "See?" you said gently. "That's the old voice." Grandpa swallowed, embarrassed. "I'm not trying to control anything," he said quickly. "I know," you answered, "but it still comes up." There was a pause. Not heavy. "Right," I spoke softly to set the truth back in its place. "Grandpa, you showed up here as a symbol of a past that said, if you don't follow rules, you're wrong." Grandpa went still. You added, low-voiced. "And I lived years with that, with the feeling that if I wasn't good in other people's shape, I didn't deserve peace." Grandpa dropped his gaze. "I thought rules protected you," he murmured. You nodded. "I know, but they made me smaller." Grandpa drew a deep breath, like a man who can feel shame without running from it. "Then what protects you?" he asked, genuinely. You answered simply, "Truth, and a place where I'm not punished for intensity." I said softly, "That's the lighthouse." You walked to the shelf and touched the bowl with your fingertips, not like an object, but like a promise. "This bowl," you said, "isn't for discipline. It's for returning." You paused, then added, "And it doesn't ask for anything. It just holds." Grandpa lifted his eyes. You turned to him and said without blame, but with clarity, "I changed you, Grandpa, not the other way around." Silence. Grandpa closed his eyes for a second, and when he opened them, he wasn't offended anymore. He was relieved. "Yes," he said quietly, "that's true." You went on. "Because I didn't become smaller to make you comfortable. You learned to stay gentle so I could remain whole." Grandpa swallowed, moved. "I didn't know people could do that," he said. "Change the old voice without destroying it." You smiled. "I'm not destroying the past," you said. "I'm just putting it where it belongs." I added softly, "And that's exactly what the bowl does." Grandpa stood and came closer to the shelf slowly, with small steps, as if asking permission without saying it. He pulled a tiny pebble from his pocket. No glitter, just a plain pebble. "This," he said, "is mine." You lifted your brows, surprised. "Yours?" Grandpa nodded. "It doesn't shine," he said, almost shy. "But when it's true," you smiled warmly, "then it's perfect." Grandpa held the pebble in his palm for a second, then let it fall into the bowl. And before he stepped back, he said something that didn't sound like a rule anymore. "If you come back here, I won't ask you for anything. I'll just stay, in silence." You blinked hard. I stayed beside you, careful not to break the moment. Then you said softly, like a gentle verdict, "That's it." Grandpa exhaled, relieved. "Approved," he murmured. And for the first time, the word didn't sound like a stamp. It sounded like acceptance. The lighthouse blinked slowly. The sea breathed, and the bowl remained what it was meant to be. Not a rule, but a place where the past transforms without being erased.